Hello, and welcome to Talk Poop, the podcast where we deep dive into the comedic and surprising world of poop. My name is Nelle. I'm a registered nurse and chronically constipated. Joining me on this adventure is Dr. Oceana, self-proclaimed master pooper, and by all accounts, a poop expert. If you have ever had a bathroom experience that left you speechless, then this is the podcast for you. Here at Talk Poop, we're not just diving into the serious business of digestion and gut health, although we'll definitely cover that ground too. We're here to celebrate the hilariously awkward, the embarrassingly funny, and the downright wacky tales that revolve around poop. We want to hear from you. If you'd like to be a guest or prefer to stay anonymous, please email us all your gut-busting poop stories, whether it's a workplace fiasco, a public restroom disaster, or a shenanigan that involves the whole family. No story is too outlandish for Talk Poop. So don't be shy, share your tales with us, and let's turn these moments into a laugh riot together, and maybe learn something along the way. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a wild ride. Without further ado, let's talk poop. Hi, Dr. Oceana.
Hi,
Thanks for joining us today.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. Well, I think we decided on constipation, the hard truth for this episode. Or when shit gets hard, you know?
Yeah.
I've personally been constipated my whole life. I had a big problem with it as a child, you know?
I hope you haven't been constipated your whole life.
Well, on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we could start with just like the technical stuff, I guess, and just see where it flows. But the basics of constipation, you're dehydrated, right? Maybe, or
It's
what's going
interesting
on.
because, like, I don't know what you guys learn, but I feel like usually the technical definition is like less than 3 bowel movements a week. Is that how you guys define it?
Well,
Nursing.
they actually let it go way longer. Like they kind of, unless you're like over 75,
Yeah.
they don't really care if you're having a bowel movement like every 4 to 7 days.
Yeah.
They're like cool with it, which I think is crazy, right?
I thought like the formal standard usually conventionally was 3 times a week. What happens when you're over 75? Like, what is the magic
Then
change?
you should be having one for sure every 4 days, which to me still feels like a really, really long time.
Yeah.
But that used to be me. I mean, I was chronically constipated and maybe having 1 or 2 bowel movements a week, and no one ever said boo, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
No
and
one ever
still
said.
they wouldn't. I had to take matters into my own hands.
Hopefully not super literally, but sometimes that happens too.
Yeah, when you have to get hands on, that'll be our whole segment.
Yeah, that'll be a deep dive, pun intended. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean it's interesting because that's, as far as I know, usually the typical, more conventional, conservative definition. But then in naturopathic medicine, like, we want people to be pooping every day. And sometimes we look at other parameters too. Like, if you're pooping every day, but your conventional doctor might say then you're fine. But what if it's like hard little pellets that on like a naturopathic in a naturopathic assessment is still a problem, even if it's not technically considered constipation, because it's telling us information that's important, that something's not moving through. There's too much input, not enough output.
Yeah. And, you can get constipated for a lot of reasons, but it almost seems like all of them have something to do with dehydration. Would you think?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes fiber too, like people just, we don't eat a lot of good food, and the amount of like fiber that I feel like we're designed to eat as wild hunters out there eating massive amounts of like twigs and sticks, like there was a lot of fiber to break down. And now, we're lucky if we're getting a few servings of vegetables in a day, I feel like, for most of us. So fiber and hydration, and they work together. You need both together. So um yeah, those are the two kind of top things that I think of. Then there's other, like medical conditions that can affect that process too and cause constipation and have it show up as kind of like a symptom, like if you do have low thyroid function or something like that, that can, constipation is sometimes a big clue or symptom to those diseases. um yeah.
And what would you think that the most important reasons that we need to poop every day are?
Well, if you're not pooping really excellently, then you're not going to have enough capacity to absorb all your nutrients. And if you can't absorb the sad amount of nutrients that, the really pathetic amount of nutrients that most of us are consuming every day, uh, you're really going to be shit out of luck, so to speak. But, like your cells need nutrients to function. And, you can be taking all the best supplements in the world, and if there's too much poop inside you for things to be properly absorbed, then it's not going to do much other than waste your money. So, yeah, I feel like from my perspective, the most important reason to poop is, well, two things: to absorb the nutrients that the cells need to function properly and optimally, and to get rid of waste products, because whatever is in your poop, it's something your body decided needed to not be there. So you probably don't want it to stay inside of you and continue, leaching into your bloodstream and your body in any way.
Yeah. Okay, that totally makes sense. I didn't even think about that whole absorbing nutrients things, but that totally makes sense. You got to get that shit out of there before you can have that lining that can absorb, be like free to
Yeah.
absorb. That totally makes
I
sense.
mean, there's always going to be some poop inside you. It's not like you're ever going to be like totally clear. There's always something going on. But yeah, I think the amount, I think it matters personally.
How often do you poop?
Every day.
At least once.
At least once, sometimes twice. Yeah.
And if you don't poop in a day, okay, what do you do?
I don't know that that's ever happened.
You've never not pooped in a day? Wow.
Maybe once, because I feel like maybe once that happened because I remember being like, "That's so weird." But you mean like what did I do to then address not having
Yeah.
pooped? I don't think I did anything because it was just like the one time, and I just was like, "That's weird," and then I pooped the next day.
One
But
time in your whole life.
yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
I win at not being constipated, I guess,
So
I mean,
you're really, really good at pooping.
I mean, I assume that's why you invited me onto this podcast, but
Yeah, I mean, I knew you knew a lot about shit. Uh,
you didn't know I was personally
I
so
didn't know you
successful. Yeah.
personally were an excellent shitter.
Yeah, I mean, if there's like a competition or something I should know about, I feel like I'd like to enter.
Well, there's not a competition, but have you heard where they'll buy your poop?
Summer. Oh, like the fecal transplant therapies and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, they pay big bucks for good poop.
Big bucks or just bucks?
No, big bucks.
Really? Like how
Yeah.
many bucks?
Well, I didn't qualify because on the Bristol stool chart and how often but if you are like between a certain age and your poop looks a certain way on the stool chart, and
Really?
yeah, and we'll have the stool chart, the Bristol stool chart on our Instagram,
That makes
which
sense.
is at talk.poop, and we'll have it also on our website. Excuse me, that's my
Wesley
dog.
wants to say something about poop.
Wesley's up in arms. Just a second.
Is he a good poop?
Yeah, he gets pancreatitis, so he does have poop problems.
Mm.
So but his he doesn't get constipated too often. It's usually the diarrhea.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know where we're going because I got distracted by my dog.
You were telling me about this, as
Oh,
like, that
you
I could,
can sell your poop.
that I can't win, but maybe I could get some money for being so good at pooping. I'm a little
Yeah.
disappointed there's not something I could win, but money would be nice.
Well, I mean, why don't we could start something. We could have a
Yeah,
competition.
sounds good.
We could just set it up. I guess if we do though, then it's kind of like you're excluded because you're part of this, so
I
it
know.
would look like we rigged it. So
Yeah.
maybe you wouldn't win. I mean, maybe there is a better pooper out there.
I don't know why you would suggest that, but maybe.
Well, one of my daughters poops every day and has, but what's interesting is when she was little, she had massive constipation.
But now
So
she doesn't.
nothing.
Mm.
Yeah. So,
Did she make any changes, do you think, to make that happen?
well, not necessarily, but she eats
Yeah.
really good. Like she's always been like a super healthy eater, even when she was really little. Like
Yeah.
there could be a slice of chocolate cake, and she's like, "Can I have an apple?"
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
That's how she was as a kid.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Sure.
So,
Um.
what's your? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm curious more about this. It sounds like you've looked into this, qualification for getting paid for your poop and went through this process where you were declined, and all that. So sorry,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, that must have been disappointing.
Yeah,
But
it was, but you know what? I'll find it and I'll put it on our Instagram and on the website, and then I'll also send you an email because
yeah,
if you can get paid for your shit, why not?
I mean,
You
I've been
know?
looking for some, easy side income, and that could be easy income
Yeah, no,
from easy.
it's amazing. Like, yeah, all you have to do is collect your shit, super easy.
Yeah,
Package it up. There's
I mean,
distribution. There's points in San Diego where you can drop it off.
talk about passive income.
Exactly.
I'm already pooping. I mean,
So, yeah, I'll send you the info and I'll put it on our Instagram and everything. But I mean, I think that's something that I'm glad that this came up because I
me
totally
too.
forgot about that. I think I was just
Or
pissed
came
that
out.
I didn't. Yeah, I'm glad that it came out finally.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a segment that I'd like to start here, and we
Mm,
mentioned it earlier. Um, when you have to get hands on.
yeah.
So when you're so constipated, and we're talking, it's right there too, but it won't come out, and sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands. Um, is this dangerous to do, to like try to digitally, you know, take it out like with your fingers?
I mean, I'm not sure that it's particularly dangerous, depending on the depth that we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
um, what I've more heard is and read about is, there's concern there with the weakening of the muscles by doing that over time.
I see.
So
So it's more like cumulative. Like if you don't let your butt muscles do what they're supposed to do and you do it for them, then they're going to be less likely to do it for you again in the future.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had to do that?
Um, I feel like once, I don't know that I had to, but I did kind of feel like I had to, so I did that. And then I was thinking about how I remember like my mom always, I don't know, like this is so bizarre, but I remember like being a little kid and like, hanging out near her or in the bathroom, like when you're little, you go to the bathroom with your mom because you're just like really annoying and you never leave your mom alone. I'm sure she like wanted to poop alone, but she didn't get to. So I just remember like being like, what is she doing? And like her always doing that. And like it's a weird thing, but as an adult I've thought about like why did she get that checked out? Like that's not normal to do every time you poop. Like you shouldn't be doing that. Um you want, one of the things we ask like in a naturopathic is intake is like, is it easy to pass? Like you want it to come out easily. So, um, yeah, have you had to do that? It sounds like you have. But
I've had to do that, not in a few years, and I used
that's good.
gloves. So if anyone's grossed out, I did, I did glove up. But it's
Yeah.
happened a couple times, and then also, when my one daughter was so constipated as a as a like a
Yeah.
2-year-old, and it was like, right there, and her butthole's huge, and she's this 2-year-old kid, like,
Oh,
we're talking about like it was extreme painful, and
oh,
we'd already
yeah.
done the glycerin suppository and all that. But yeah, we had to like I didn't do it myself because I was too afraid. So I took her to the doctor, and the doctor had to do it.
Yeah.
And we had to do that twice when she was little. So,
Wow.
it's, and I've worked in the hospital where we've had to do that for patients.
Yeah, were you a part of that process?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to go around, you stick your finger and go around the poop and just kind of like stimulate it to come out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've done it many times, working
Many
at the
times.
hospital. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Constipation, especially in old people, is like very, very, very prevalent in our society.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you hear about the manual extracting or, process a lot more in the elderly population.
I always say it all comes down to poop.
It really
Every
does.
everything
Yeah.
eventually comes down to poop.
Life is poop.
That is what it is,
Yeah.
honestly. Because at the end of your life, what does it come down to? Where you live, who cares for you? It literally comes down to who is willing to deal with your poop.
That's
That's
true.
it.
Wipe your butt,
Right.
remove your poop if necessary, or bring you to the appropriate medical personnel to remove the poop.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that it all comes down to poop, which is what I think too. In this podcast, we can talk about other things besides poop, because I really truly believe everything comes back to poop. So I feel
Yeah.
like
We
we
won't have
can,
to try it. Of course. Yeah.
yeah, we can just have a conversation. What did you do this week? How are you doing? Is there anything interesting? Because I know it will find its way back to poop.
It'll just flow right back, just like a really good bowel movement.
Exactly. And I know what those are now. I've gotten a lot healthier. I don't
Have
want you
you?
to think that I'm over here like chronically constipated. I'm pooping almost every day now,
That's
usually.
great.
Yeah, sometimes multiple times a day, but I do have bouts of constipation, and I'll take Senna. I take
That's the strong
magnesium.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't, now that I've been regular, I don't like being not regular. So like
Yeah.
I take magnesium every day, 500 milligrams, and I feel like
Is that
that
the
helps a lot.
citrate?
I'll have to
Probably
look.
magnesium citrate. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I take that every day, and I do think that like helps a lot. Um,
Definitely.
but sometimes I'll still get constipated, and if it goes for like, if it's already gone for like, I'm on day 2 and I haven't gone, then I will take Senna, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not
You don't
digging
want to
into
mess
it.
around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a pretty powerful result with Senna?
I mean, not crazy. Like it will take a whole day usually. That's why I don't wait too long.
Yeah.
And it usually just like will make me have a bowel movement, you
Yeah.
know?
Is it the
Uh,
tea that you're using, like the smooth move, that kind of thing?
no, they're like tablets.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
hmm So, but it does seem to work really well for me. I
Yeah.
have on occasion had the experience. Oh, the other thing that works really good for constipation for me is yellow dragon fruit.
Interesting. Never heard
Like
of that one.
it's a crazy laxative, and not the
Huh.
pink one.
Yeah.
And it's
Yellow.
so powerful
Mm.
that sometimes I only will eat a half of one, because
Wow.
sometimes even that half of one will be like, oh my God, I have to go to the bathroom. And sometimes we'll even, and I didn't find this out on my own. I was told this by my friend Michelle, because it
Interesting.
was a laxative for her. And so And now it's expensive though. They're like $6 a pop at
Where do you
Sprouts.
get them? At Sprouts, you can get them? Okay.
They don't have them every time you go, but they do have them with some frequency.
It's like a fresh fruit that you can buy there?
Yeah. And it's
Wow.
super good. It's super delicious. It's really sweet.
Yeah.
It has a lot of like little seeds in it, but that are edible, but they're
Yeah.
not like hard to chew. They're very like pleasant to eat, and it's
Yeah.
really sweet. You know, where the pink dragon fruit sometimes is like, um,
I find it very bland. Yeah.
yeah, it's super bland. This one is
Yeah.
really sweet,
Wow.
which is why I think it probably costs more because they're like, this is the good one.
Well, that's a new one to me. I mean, fruit in general can help people have a bowel movement, but I wasn't familiar in particular with, I didn't even know about yellow dragon fruit in general. So, very interesting.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a really good one. Um, and people always say prune juice, but I
Yeah.
haven't really tried it. I like eating prunes, just like regular.
I'll tell people to do that sometimes when they're working with kids, just because sometimes you want to avoid supplements with kids and start with something that's more just dietary, and prunes or prune juice. They're usually, kids are just so sensitive to things too. I feel like they
Yeah.
usually will respond stronger, but yeah, prunes for adults. In the clinic, the naturopaths would usually prescribe magnesium citrate if fiber and hydration weren't doing it. And that, over and over, like, yeah, like you said, it works for you, and it worked really well for people. And yeah, I still wonder, like, I don't know, is that still a band-aid of some kind though, um
Yeah.
but then again, the soils are so deficient in magnesium, like we all need more magnesium, so I don't know.
Yeah. And then I don't know too, because if you have a connective tissue kind of thing, which is,
Mhm.
like with
That's
with
right.
myself and my daughter, right? So
Yeah,
that it could have been this whole time, right? If we
that's
have
true.
connective tissue disorder, then it
That's
makes
right.
sense that our bowels are going to be kind of not working as well as the average person. So then it
Yeah.
kind of makes sense that we need a little extra help.
Yeah.
So it kind of
Yeah.
like that piece kind of fit really well with all my poop stuff and all
Yeah,
that.
is constipation like an established symptom of Ehlers-Danlos, or makes sense. I
With
just
intestinal issues, so
yeah.
IBS and different things like
Mm,
that is
yeah,
because it's not just like one thing, so it can go
right.
back and
'Cause
forth
it's
depending
systemic.
on
Yeah.
how. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
Mm,
it kind of made sense.
yeah.
So so I don't mind if I have to like do stuff to help it out. And now that at least I know what to
Yeah, that
do.
makes sense.
Yeah. I used to, and I used to be when I was a young adult, I had kind of an eating disorder,
Mm.
and my drug of choice for my eating disorder was laxatives.
Oh dear. Yeah.
And so I was taking so much laxatives, like
Yeah.
all the time. And I
Yeah.
was the thinnest I've ever been in my life. Had a I only ate frosting
Oh,
because I loved sugar so much, and I
frosting
ate
is delicious.
frosting and laxatives. Okay.
Wow.
And I was so skinny. It was
How long
crazy.
did that go on for?
Um, that I only ate frosting
Yeah.
about 6 months. I ate frosting for
Wow.
6 months. Mhm. And
That's
I
rough.
had just got divorced. So I think I was maybe like just stressed.
Yeah.
Anyways, I started to shit my pants. My boyfriend was over, and I, you can't never trust a fart, you know. I thought I just had to do
Oh,
a
they
little
say.
fart, and I just
Yeah.
shit my pants. And I'm
Oh
like, oh
no.
my God. And my boyfriend's in the next room, and I have to like hurry, and that's when I stopped the laxatives. I said,
That was your
"Do you
cue.
have?" That was my wake up call.
Yeah, that
You
was your
know,
rock bottom.
that was my rock. It
Yeah.
was a very soggy rock bottom,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I do not abuse laxatives after that.
How long had you been together with this boyfriend at this point? I feel like that's an important part of this medical incident.
I mean, maybe 3 months, 4 months.
So like long enough to be a little bit comfortable, but not long enough that you were gonna be like, babe, I shit my pants. Can you get me some underwear?
Right. No, we were,
Yeah.
and honestly, he probably would have been cool about it.
Yeah, maybe.
Um, because he was cool, but like
Yeah.
I was super insecure about it. I was
Oh yeah.
like,
I
I
mean,
did not know. Yeah.
yeah, shitting your pants is like when I really think about who would I feel comfortable, shitting my pants around and just being like, hey, I just shit my pants, no big deal. Like, not a lot of people. I could think of a couple people, but you know, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a super comfortable place to be. Uh,
no,
this
literally, or
same
yeah,
this
or
same
metaphorically.
boyfriend, I was visiting him once in Cleveland and
Yeah.
for the weekend, and I happened to get horrible diarrhea. And he's got a one
Oh,
bedroom, one bath apartment. And I do have to tell him, right? Because
yeah.
I mean, it's like I'm having to go to the bathroom like every hour, and I have to ask him to like go to the store and buy me like Imodium.
Oh no.
And he was really cool about it, but for like a year afterwards, he just called me DT for dump truck.
Oh, oh
It was
man.
like a cute nickname, you know. I was the
How did you
dump
feel
truck.
about that?
Well, I mean, at that point we were a little bit closer, so and he would be laughing when he said it, so
Oh, were you laughing?
I was kind of laughing. In the moment, I was pretty embarrassed, but I would make him
Yeah.
leave. Every time I had to have diarrhea, I'd make him
Yeah.
leave his apartment. I'd be like, "You need
Yeah.
to leave." Like, go down the
I
street,
understand. Yeah.
which he did. So, it
Yeah.
wasn't too bad, but
Did he ever find out about the initial poop related incident in his vicinity or no?
I don't know. I can't remember
Oh,
if I ever told him.
we should
I'll
have
have
him
to.
on sometime.
Yeah, we should have him on.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, maybe I did tell him because yeah, we're pretty close still, so I think I probably did, but
Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting to hear his perspective on the whole experience anyway. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we should have him on. He'd probably be open to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't talked to him in a few days because I was pissed he didn't vote. He lives in Ohio. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
and I was like, and I get it. He's not into politics and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, but we're talking about like abortion rights, you
Yeah.
know? So I'm like,
Yeah.
you could just vote this one time
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because you love women. You have people in your life that are women that you care about.
Yeah.
So you could do that. But he didn't.
Did
And they
you
still
told him
passed
how
it.
you expressed how you felt about it to him?
Yeah, even and with enough time for him to vote. So
Yeah.
that he had many hours left in
Yeah.
the voting when I mentioned our, reminders, it's today's the day to vote.
Yeah.
Um, and he said, "Why would I waste my time?" That was literally what
Mm.
he said. And
Yeah.
I said, "Because there's women in your life that you care about." And then he said, "Oh, I trust the good voters of the Buckeye State."
Mm.
And then I kind of just went silent. And then he's watching it all night, texting me, I'm not responding. And then they pass it, right?
Yeah.
So it's good, right? Everything's fine. And then he says, "See, I told you. You could
Oh,
trust the people of
that's
Ohio."
where he went wrong.
Yeah. And then I'm like, "Oh, yep, you were right." And then he's like, "Yep, I was right." And then I haven't texted him since because I'm
And then
like,
you were
okay,
like, I'm not gonna talk to you now.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if, maybe he'll be so lucky to be invited someday onto the
Yeah.
podcast. Maybe not. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Well, I tend to forgive him very easily. I just kind of
Mhm.
don't talk to him for a week or two, and then I'll be like, all right.
All right, so you guys have like a good system, good rhythm
Yeah, he
in place.
irritates me. I don't
Yeah.
talk to him for a couple weeks. And
Right.
then we're getting
Right.
along. Then he irritates me. I don't talk for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And we have a rhythm. So, and it
Sounds
works
kind
for
of
us.
nice. Yeah. Like you can take space, have your own like independence a little bit more, and then, you know that you're gonna reconnect. It's sounds nice.
Yeah, and we're just friends now. I mean, we don't date or
Yeah.
anything. I mean, he lives on the other side of the country. We're just
Yeah.
friends. It's just even as friends, I need a break sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's, that's really
Yeah.
nice. Mhm.
Yeah. It works for us. So I feel like we are like how married couples act. Just
Yeah.
we're not married or dating.
Well, how long have you been friends?
Uh,
How long have you
20,
known each other? Yeah.
23 years, 23 years.
That's a long time. I feel like at that point, people are family,
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I totally, I love him,
Yeah.
So even when we're pissed at each other, I think we still totally love each other. So
Yeah. And you've been through a lot together, poop related and otherwise, so those are really bonding experiences for a lot of people.
yeah, yeah. I've never really had to deal with his poop, but I guess he hasn't really had to deal with mine other than just like maybe hearing me poop.
And going to get you the Imodium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's never really had a problem with poop. He's a good pooper too.
Is he? Oh, we should have
Yeah.
him on the show too. And for
Yeah.
that, maybe he also should enter the contest that we're going to establish then.
I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
I'm
I
feeling a
don't know
little,
how.
competitive about it now that you mentioned he's a really good
I
pooper
can
too,
see
but
that. I
yeah.
can see you're like, let's try to let someone else enter this
Yeah,
competition.
try. I'm an Aries. I have that little competitive edge in there. Mhm.
Yeah, that tracks. He's a Capricorn, so
So I'll probably win.
you'll win.
Feel like I already won.
Well, I think you are winning. Winning at life,
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I have to cough. I'm just gonna cough.
Okay, you should cough. You got to let it all out. I don't feel like we can have a podcast about poop where where it's considered impolite to cough or sneeze or any other bodily reactions or fluids that need to happen.
I agree. And it's like I started coughing today and I don't know if it's psychosomatic because in the last 2 days I've had 3 patients that have tuberculosis.
Oh my God, that's scary.
And, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
what are the like I've heard that it's on the rise in Southern California, and I know
Wow.
that it's in Orange County. It's the
Wow.
worst. But these patients were, well, one of them was in Hawaii, so that doesn't count. They're pretty far away
Okay,
from
I was gonna say, yeah, did they travel or
um because I talked to patients from California and Hawaii.
yeah.
But the other 2 were like in like the Fontana area, like
Mm.
San Bernardino. And I know that's not San Diego and it's still pretty far, but it just made me think. I mean, like, I don't know.
That
And
you could possibly be
that
exposed to TB
obviously I have tuberculosis,
in your
Oceana,
work from home job. Yeah.
where I don't see anyone and I
That's
never go out
exactly.
anywhere because I'm almost agoraphobic. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
definitely think
obvious.
TB is the most likely diagnosis
I'm
for
glad
sure.
that you agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
but I'm glad that I said it out loud because I
Mm.
do hear how ridiculous that sounds, and I just have a dry throat. That's it. Um,
Yeah.
I don't have tuberculosis.
Maybe you had stage fright or podcast fright. I don't know.
Well, I was coughing earlier too when I was working. I worked today.
Yeah.
Um,
But I mean,
and
in anticipation of this, big venture.
yeah,
Mm.
that's true. I mean, the stakes are so high.
I know.
Uh, so that's probably what it was.
Sorry, there's an ambulance going by.
Okay. Probably someone with TB.
I was gonna say probably manual extraction, constipation related, but you know, I don't know.
Or
Either.
that. Those are the only 2.
Yeah. Those are actually the top 2 causes of ambulances in most cities.
I read that.
Yeah, me too. I wrote it too.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're you know what? We're talking about constipation today, and
We were a while
what do
ago.
you think about colonics?
Ooh, I'm so glad you asked because I was thinking about colonics earlier. I mean, when you say constipation, I think colonics, but it's sort of something like you have to ask. I'm not just going to organically talk about colonics necessarily. It's just one of those things you have to ask before I'm going to share how much I love colonics. Um, but I think they're amazing, and I think they've been really, they have an unfair reputation, I would say, like a bad rap in conventional medicine. Um, but I'm, having done them myself, gone to see someone for them, I'm a big fan, and I feel like I've seen a lot of clients do well, and patients who came to the clinic, who were getting them. We didn't do them there, but people would go, have that experience and tell us about it. And yeah, I just think they're great. And especially, I know sometimes, like, like I've mentioned to older relatives, like my dad or my aunt, like, hey, you should try this, and they are like, oh, we did that in the 60s, like, no way, it was super crazy, it was really painful, like, and I'm like, what? Like, so from talking to people who, sort of came of age doing some of the early colonics, my feeling is that it's changed a lot in terms of the maybe safety of how they're currently done, because you're barely putting something like, maybe half an inch up into your rectum. It barely goes in. And then it's just warm water going up in there very gently, just to what feels comfortable. And they give you this really nice massage. And then you let it all out, and that's it. It's not like super invasive in any way. And so I think it was done, from what I've heard anecdotally, a lot more aggressively, in the past. And yeah, I think they're really great. People report a lot of, wide range of benefits from getting them, for certain conditions, or even just like somewhat regularly for upkeep in our toxic environment.
I have had both good and bad experiences with colonics
Oh,
personally.
do tell.
Um,
Yeah.
and if there's anybody listening, I love comments or questions. And if
Mm.
anybody has a story about colonics or constipation, you can email us at talkpooppod@gmail.com, or comment on the video, or go to our Instagram, talk.poop. And we could do an episode deep diving on that if you guys have any stories.
Absolutely.
But I really loved colonics. I was getting them kind of frequently, and
So frequently.
maybe like once a week.
Oh yeah, that's frequent.
And we had a regimen, because I went because I was having chronic constipation. And so
Yeah.
she's like, okay, for the first like 2 months, let's do it once a week, and then we'll spread it out and do like every 2 weeks, or, and then
Yeah.
kind of like that. And then I moved,
Mm-hmm.
so I couldn't go to her anymore.
Oh yeah.
And so I picked a new place, and it was great when I was going to her, and she gave me these supplements that she made herself,
Nice.
and they were great, and I was feeling amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I had never been in better shape in my life.
Wow.
I had energy, and like, it
Yeah.
was great. So we moved. I couldn't go to her anymore. Super bummed,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
And then so I found a place that I thought had good reviews here in San Diego, right? And I felt like I seriously like have some PTSD from it.
Oh
Like, I
no.
was definitely like, I feel like I was like almost assaulted. It was really
Wow.
bad.
I'm so sorry.
And and I called. Okay, so I called to try to like it was the abuse wasn't just physical, although there was physical abuse happening in the appointment. It was also, I was trapped, and it was religious abuse. Okay.
Oh no.
So she's telling me about her church and Jesus and the Savior
During
and
the
all,
colonic process.
while she has got this lock on my, like, I guess,
Ooh.
duodenum or something,
Ooh.
and she's pushing so hard, and I'm crying.
Oh my God.
I was bruised for 2 weeks, literal bruises on my stomach up here, right, just just below the,
Yeah.
and
I basically had to agree with her, and she was just pushing so hard. Even now, just barely touching it, I still have pain there.
That's not good.
Yeah. So I tried to report her,
Yeah.
This was my only issue with colonics, because I know they can be so good,
Yeah.
is that if they're not good, there
Yeah.
is nobody to report it to. Like,
Yeah.
nobody
That
gives
makes
a
sense.
shit. So I literally, I called the state. I
Yeah.
sent emails to like the state, like who regulates
Wow.
like salons or anything. I never got any response back. Nobody cares. There's no one regulating it.
I read somewhere at some point something similar. Someone had a bad experience, and it just was so impossible to do anything about it. It's that's terrible. That's a tricky thing about the way certain things are regulated and the good and bad of it. But
Yeah. Yeah, I know it can be so good, so I don't want to be
right.
like scared off. But
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
if
You just gotta
anybody
know
wants
who's
a
good.
direct message, I'll tell you who it was if you're in San
Yeah.
Diego, so you can avoid,
Yeah.
because
And I can
it
tell you
was
who to see who's good.
perfect.
Yeah.
So if you have a question who to avoid, who to go to, let us know, because yeah, I know. So I would like to know, actually, because I really got a benefit of it. I've just been really scared to try again
Yeah, of
after that.
course. Yeah. Was your I feel like I need to know more about the religious aspect for some reason. Was it like very Jesus oriented, or like what was the
It
yeah.
was very Jesus oriented and very like, what are my morals? She
Oh.
was very interested in like what I thought was morally okay and not okay. And basically, she just would say something, and then I had like a more open-minded view, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I think everyone can make that decision for themselves." And then that's when she like laid in and then
Whoa.
I was like, "Oh my God, this is some kind of weird." I almost felt like this was like a weird fetish thing for her,
Yeah, it sounds
like.
really like abuse. It does.
Yeah, because it was weird. Because even when I was going to the table, I remember it being weird that she like was super emphatic that I leave my phone in this other room with my stuff,
Mm,
and I
yeah.
was like, okay, whatever. She wants us
Yeah.
to be relaxing or something.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, she wants me to not have any access to any of my things while I'm in this room, and I'm literally stuck. You
Yeah.
know. So I was like, okay, I was like so freaked out. And then when you fill out the form, when you first get there, you put all your information, like your where you live, like,
Yeah.
everything. And so I'm like, oh my God, because I was scared to even put like a bad review on Yelp, because she
Yeah.
knows where I live.
Yeah. Wow.
So I was like real scared of her.
That's
But
how long ago was that?
um that was when I was living in Hillcrest.
Hmm.
Um
So not that long ago.
no,
Well,
it was like 2021.
yeah.
So like 2.5 years ago. Hmm.
Well, that's terrible. I'm very sorry you had that
Oh,
terrible
it's not your fault.
experience.
But
Well,
yeah, it's
but I mean that is really giving a bad name to colonics.
I
So
think it was just her.
yeah,
And
of
when I
course, yeah,
when I realized it, the Yelp reviews, she had a lot of good Yelp reviews, but what she told me in
weird.
there, that she mainly only gives colonics to people in her church. So
Mm,
it was all these people who go to the
okay,
same
okay. So
culty
they were
church
all
telling her.
they were gonna get the maybe non-abusive colonic treatment.
Right, because
Yeah,
she already knows that they believe the same thing. And then I come in
right.
there, this like total outsider.
That's
Yeah,
horrifying. I also just want to say, in case it needs to be, the crying, that is not a normal part of getting a colonic. Like, normally, I feel like I'm at a spa. I mean, I'm literally at a spa getting it, and like,
me
it's
too.
normally if you feel even like, oh, that's a little uncomfortable, they're like, okay, that's good for now then. It's
Totally.
crying is really far from how it should
Yeah.
be.
And I almost didn't want to say anything because I don't want to scare anyone,
Oh, of
because
course. But that's
every
a
other
realistic
experience I've
thing.
had
Yeah.
has been just like what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
it felt very good. It was a very
Yeah.
calm, peaceful environment. There
Yeah.
was zero pain. If it
Yeah.
was even just even if like you were saying, even if it was
Right.
just pressure, if the pressure built
Yeah.
up a little bit, I was like, oh, I was feeling. She immediately released it. It
Yeah.
was very nice and felt good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I think it's important that we talk about, all the range of experiences. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah. And maybe make sure that if you get a personal reference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's just smart if you're going to stick something up your butt or have someone else stick something up your butt that
Yeah.
you either know them really well or you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Um,
And I feel like I've heard the same for even like getting your nails done or just, different things. There in anything you go do, really, there's always the chance that it's not going to be a good experience,
yeah.
that someone doesn't know what they're doing or shouldn't really be doing what they're doing. And it
Yeah.
can be really hard to know, like you said, unless you have a really good personal knowledge of that person.
Yeah. Well, I know you have to get going because you have another uh, obligation with your work, right?
Yes, I do.
So thank you so much for being on today.
Yeah,
And maybe, hopefully, you can be on lots more times as your schedule allows if you would like to.
I would love to. I feel like we really there was a big range from lighter to very deep, serious, poop, all poop related under the umbrella of poop, you know.
Yeah.
But we went all the way from lighthearted, funny boyfriend stories to, trauma related to poop. So it's
Yeah.
an impressive range. I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing us
We
both.
had a
Yeah.
good range. And
Mhm.
and then we're gonna get some guests on that we're gonna tell us their poop stories, and then we can just sort of see where it takes us. And I'd love for you to be on that journey with.
Can't wait to be on more of the poop journey.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Hope you have a good poop today.
Thanks for joining us today. Uh, Thanks for joining us today on Talk Poop. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Instagram at talk.poop or email us at talkpooppod@gmail.com. We want to hear all your stories and questions. Just let us know in your email if you'd like to remain anonymous or if you'd like a shout out or even want to be on the show. Until next time, from all of us here at Talk Poop, we hope you have a good poop today.